Title: The Ongoing Russia-Ukraine War, Key Insights and Major Developments. Introduction. The Russia-Ukraine War, which began in February 2022, has become one of the most significant geopolitical conflicts of the 21st century. The war has not only reshaped Eastern Europe but also had far-reaching consequences on global politics, the economy, and humanitarian efforts. In this video, we'll explore the key events, the impact of the war, and the possible outcomes of this prolonged conflict. 1. Origins of the conflict ***. The roots of the Russia-Ukraine war can be traced back to 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea, a region internationally recognized as part of Ukraine. This act of aggression led to sanctions on Russia and heightened tensions in the region. Fast forward to February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine under the pretext of demilitarizing and denazifying the country. This justification was widely criticized as a false narrative aimed at justifying a clear act of aggression. 2. Major phases of the war ***. Initial invasion, February-April 2022. Russia's strategy focused on capturing Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, and toppling its government. However, fierce Ukrainian resistance, bolstered by Western military aid, forced Russian forces to retreat. Eastern offensive, mid-2022-2023. The conflict shifted to the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, collectively known as Donbass. These areas have seen intense fighting, with Russia employing artillery, missiles, and airstrikes. Stalemate and war of attrition, 2024. By 2024, the war had entered a stalemate. Both sides suffered heavy casualties, and the conflict increasingly relied on drone warfare and long-range artillery. Reports suggest that Russia's military supply lines have been stretched, while Ukraine faces shortages of ammunition and Western support fatigue. 3. Key players in the war ***. Russia led by President Vladimir Putin. Russia's primary objective is to regain influence over former Soviet territories. Putin's stance has been met with internal criticism and international condemnation. Ukraine ***. President Volodymyr Zelensky's leadership has been pivotal in rallying international support. Ukraine's military strategy has been bolstered by aid from NATO allies, especially the US, the UK, and the EU. International community *** NATO countries have provided financial aid, weapons, and intelligence to Ukraine. However, some countries, including China and India, have maintained a neutral stance, calling for peace negotiations. 4. Humanitarian crisis ***. The war has caused one of the most severe humanitarian crises in recent history. Over 8 million Ukrainians have fled the country as refugees, with millions more displaced internally. Cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut have faced catastrophic destruction, leaving thousands without homes or basic necessities. The United Nations and numerous NGOs have been actively providing humanitarian assistance, but challenges remain due to ongoing military operations. 5. Economic impact of the war ***. Global energy crisis ***. Europe's dependence on Russian natural gas led to an energy crisis when Russia cut off supplies. This prompted Europe to seek alternative energy sources and accelerate its shift to renewable energy. Food security ***. Ukraine, known as the breadbasket of Europe, saw its grain exports severely disrupted. The war's impact on food supplies contributed to higher food prices and food insecurity in regions like Africa and the Middle East. Sanctions on Russia ***. Western sanctions targeted Russian banks, oligarchs, and energy exports. These sanctions have crippled parts of Russia's economy but also had ripple effects on global markets. 6. Military tactics and weapons ***. Use of drones ***. Both sides have increasingly relied on drones for reconnaissance and airstrikes. Iranian-made Shahid drones used by Russia have been particularly controversial. Western weapons aid ** HIMARS, high-mobility artillery rocket systems, provided by the US allowed Ukraine to launch precision strikes on Russian supply depots and command centers. Cyber warfare ** Russia has engaged in cyber attacks against Ukrainian infrastructure and Western institutions, highlighting the growing role of cyber warfare in modern conflicts. 7. The role of media and propaganda ***. Media coverage of the war has played a crucial role in shaping public opinion. Western media highlights Ukrainian resilience, while Russian state media portrays the war as a special military operation to defend Russian-speaking populations. Social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, and Telegram have become battlegrounds for information warfare, with disinformation campaigns affecting perceptions globally. 8. Possible outcomes and future scenarios ***. Diplomatic resolution ***. Peace talks have stalled due to Russia's demands for territorial concessions and Ukraine's refusal to cede land. A diplomatic resolution remains unlikely unless both sides compromise. Prolonged stalemate *. The current stalemate could last for years, leading to a frozen conflict similar to the situation in eastern Ukraine after 2014. Ukrainian counteroffensive *. Ukraine may attempt a counteroffensive with new Western weapons. Success depends on the sustained support of NATO allies. Escalation of the conflict *. If NATO or Russia miscalculates, there is a risk of escalation into a broader conflict, especially if attacks spill into neighboring countries like Poland or Moldova. Conclusion. The Russia-Ukraine war continues to be a defining event of our time. It's a story of resilience, geopolitical strategy, and human suffering. The war's outcome will shape the future of Eastern Europe and global power dynamics for years to come. Stay tuned as we follow new developments and analyze their impact on the world stage. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates on global issues and current events. To understand the full scale of the economic impact, we have to look at the big picture. Ukraine, known as the breadbasket of Europe, is one of the world's largest exporters of wheat, barley, and sunflower oil. Russia, on the other hand, is a major supplier of oil, gas, and critical metals like nickel and palladium. When these two nations went to war, it wasn't just their economies that felt the shock, it was the entire world. Let's talk about energy prices, one of the biggest pain points for people around the world. When Western countries placed sanctions on Russian oil and gas, prices shot through the roof. Natural gas prices in Europe skyrocketed by over 400% at one point, leading to an energy affordability crisis for millions of households. Countries like Germany, which relied on Russian gas for 55% of its supply, had to scramble to find alternatives. This led to increased investments in renewable energy, but the transition wasn't fast enough to prevent energy shortages in the winter of 2023 to 2024. Next, let's talk about food, something that affects us all. Ukraine's ports were blockaded, cutting off 30% of the world's wheat exports. Countries in Africa and the Middle East, which rely on Ukrainian grain, were hit the hardest. The result? Rising food prices and the threat of famine in vulnerable regions. Energy and food are two essential parts of our lives, so when their prices rise, it's no surprise that inflation follows. Countries like the UK and the US saw their inflation rates hit 40-year highs. Central banks had no choice but to raise interest rates, making it harder for people to afford loans, mortgages, and credit. This cost of living crisis triggered protests in countries like the UK, where energy bills were so high that movements like Don't Pay UK urged people to stop paying their energy bills altogether. Cut to protest footage, clips of economic experts analyzing inflation. If you've been waiting months for a new car or the latest electronics, you're not alone. The war also disrupted global supply chains. Sanctions on Russian metals like nickel and palladium impacted the production of electronics and electric vehicle batteries. With Russia's metal exports under sanctions, prices of essential materials soared. This made everything from cars to smartphones more expensive and delayed production timelines worldwide. Data graphic, increase in raw material prices like nickel and palladium. All these factors, inflation, energy crises, and supply chain issues, shook global stock markets. Investors fled to safe havens like gold, causing wild swings in major indices like the S&P 500 and the FTSE. Some economists feared a global recession, but while countries like Germany and the UK slipped into recession, others like the US managed to avoid it, barely. Data graphics, stock market crashes and central bank responses. Now, you might be wondering, did anyone benefit from this crisis? Actually, yes. Oil-producing nations like Saudi Arabia and Qatar saw windfall profits as oil prices surged. Meanwhile, arms manufacturers saw massive growth as NATO countries increased their defense budgets. Footage of oil rigs, military equipment factories, and NATO tanks being deployed. So, what does the future hold? Will energy prices stabilize? Will inflation finally cool down? Analysts believe energy markets could normalize in 2025, but as long as the war continues, the uncertainty will remain. If there's one lesson from all of this, it's that conflicts in one part of the world can have a domino effect on every part of our daily lives. From the gas pump to the grocery store, we're all connected. If you found this video informative, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We cover global events and how they affect you. Leave a comment below. How has the war affected your country's economy? Let's discuss.